All right. All right. So Mercury is definitely in retrograde because I don't think I've ever had this many issues with technology in one episode. Like my mic wasn't working and then some of the posts. But, anyways, so hi guys, Donnie Rouse here. Have you ever wanted to get more clarity in life? Have you ever wanted to feel that pull of knowing exactly what it is that you want? But the problem is that you don't know what you want. And when you try to get that clarity, you seem to come up with these vague things. So relax. The process of clarity is exactly that. It is a process. And what I'm about to share with you is a process that will actually give you more clarity, but it's a process that you wouldn't normally go to because we are told that we don't want to focus on what it is that we don't want. But this process is called the anti-vision. And what it does is by shining a light on what it is that you don't want, it points the arrow into all the things that you do want, as well as the tasks that you have to take in order to get them, said differently, to avoid the thing that you don't want. So let's look at your life. Like, what is an area of your life where you feel like you've been struggling with clarity? Pick that area. And now let's go to the anti-vision. So what is it that you don't want? And there are a lot of places that you can look for the things that you don't want. You can look for those things that literally like tweak you inside. When you see them, you're like, oh God, glad I'm not that person. And it's funny, but these things are there to feed you. These things are there to further give you clarity on that vision. Because when you see these things show up in your world, then all of a sudden you have to ask the question, well, all right, well, in order to have that thing that I don't want, what is it that I would have to do? What kind of habits would I have to form? And you'd be like, well, man, that person, they are overweight, and they don't move really well. Be like, all right, well, what habits would lead to that? You'd be like, well, maybe, eating unhealthy food, maybe sitting for hours in front of a TV and not moving very much. Maybe, you know, emotional eating, maybe, and you start to list off these reasons. And again, this is no hate to people who actually have like issues with thyroid and stuff like that. That's not where I'm going. This is to say, well, what is it? What we're doing here is we're trying to look for the vision, the anti-vision that will propel you towards the vision that you want in your life. This is a process that I use in my One Life Blueprint, and I'm going to give you an example of it actually using the physical aspect of my own life. And so once you have that, now once you have this list of all the things, the tasks that are going to lead you to the thing you don't want, the easy thing, now you just give it a contrast. You reverse it. You can, right, well, in order not to have that, like that means, to eat, I have to eat healthy food. All right, put that there. Not move very much. That means I have to stretch multiple times a day. All right, let me put that there. And I'll go into my story now. So the reason I came across this video, because a friend of mine, my friend Alex, give me a shout out, he sent me these videos. And to be honest with you, most of the time when people send me like YouTube videos and stuff, I might watch a minute of it and then I'm like, all right, whatever, I'm done with it, because let me focus on something else I have to do. But in this instance, I took the time to watch the videos. And the video was about the anti-vision. Funny enough, this is how things happen. Like whenever I need something, that's when it falls into my life. Because I'm working on my One Life Blueprint and I'm constantly trying to tweak how to help people get better clarity. So looking at this video on anti-vision, it went into, thinking about all the experiences that you had in the past that were negative or emotionally like hard, that you don't want to experience again, and writing those down. Looking at the outside world and like the things that you do not want to experience, and you start writing these things down. And then you say, okay, well, in order not to experience this anymore, what would I not have to, like, what would I have to not do? Or so you're like, well, all right, well, in order to not feel like the pain of like in my hips, I have some like tight hips sometimes. I have to stretch multiple times a day. I have to realize that you know what? Coffee is not a substitute for water. I can't drink a gallon of coffee and feel good, right? So, all right, drink more water. Also, lately, I'd been indulging a little bit more in things that I normally wouldn't eat, such as like corn chips or chocolate or Oreos, right? So putting that on there, and it's okay to indulge once in a while, but not to overindulge and to catch yourself. So I put that on there, right? Like I can't be cheating as much as I do. I got to start prepping my food more. I can't go towards the quick thing. So after I had this list, I said, all right, well, this is what I don't want to do. And by doing these tasks is what's going to move me towards the anti-vision for this category of my life. Well, what do I have to do? So I want you to understand now, by seeing this, now all of a sudden it gives you a stark contrast as to the things you must do in order to progress in that category of your life. And I already hinted at it. I said, okay, well, in order to move in that direction, I like to not feel tight, got to stretch more, right? I got to move. I can't spend hours at a day sitting at my desk and not moving very much. I got to take breaks during the day, get outside so I start to feel good, and then come back and do work and kind of keep that cycle going, but always giving myself a break. What else? I have to prep my food. When I was doing my weightlifting competition in 2017, I got in the habit of prepping food, and I had maintained that habit for a very long time. And then recently, because I'd been more involved in doing, my podcast and doing the One Life Blueprint and building my coffee company, I took that time away. All of a sudden, I was like, oh my God, it takes too much time to prep my food. And as a result of having that language in my mind, I was going for the quick thing. I would, if I needed a snack, I would go do rice cakes and almond butter, which is not a bad thing. But, I would go to like one of my favorite foods is ramen, and I love noodles. And I would go to things that would not serve me or the vision I wanted for my physical health. So it actually takes, it takes more time to prep these, like to make your meals at the time you need to eat them rather than just prepping and having it done so you put it in a plate and you heat it up. So, right, it just changed the way I thought about it. And as a result, I started prepping all my food again. And even on this past Sunday night, I was like, oh my God, I get to go now and prep now. And it was 8 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I really don't feel like prepping my food right now. But I was like, you know what is it that I want? Let me just focus on doing this and what the result is. And as a result of doing that, I went to there, I prepped my food real quick, and I had everything done. And now that's what I'm eating, right? It prevents me from cheating. But all of this newer, well, it's not really new action. I've been doing these actions in the past. But the new drive, the new emotional drive for them came from looking at this anti-vision. This anti-vision gave me clarity on the steps I needed to take as well as where I wanted to go. And a lot of people struggle with getting clarity as to what it is they want, because if you don't know what it is you want, the chance of you getting it are slim to none, right? Because you're always driving towards a vision. And if you can't get clarity on what it is that vision is for your life, then you're just going to be driving without any destination. While sometimes you might get lost, your car might break down, and you might see some pretty scenery. You want to know where you're going. And to know where you're going, you need to have a clear vision. So let's go back to that category, right? So pick a category of your life where maybe you feel like you haven't had like all the clarity that you wanted. First and foremost, let's start with the thing. What is it that you want for this area of your life? Write it down. And if you don't have a lot to say about it, right? When you write down what it is you want, you may like, oh, I want more freedom. And there's going to be these words in your vision that say, okay, well, what does that mean? Right? All right, I want freedom, but there's going to be words that are vague, and you want to highlight these words, circle them, and then say, all right, well, how can I get more clear on that? And then break that down smaller and smaller by asking you questions. But then looking at the anti-vision, after you've done that, look at the anti-vision. Okay, well, what don't I want to experience? Because the anti-vision will give you more clarity to those those things that you do want, because you're looking and you're like, well, I don't want to be a slave to my desk. Okay, well, what does that mean? You're like, well, I like taking breaks. I like going out for lunch. I love taking a long coffee break. And so it may make you prioritize your day differently. So you start to write these things down. And then what would you have to do in order for that anti-vision to come to fruition? You'd be like, well, I would have to work through my lunch, right? I would have to be so caught up in doing whatever the task is, and I'd have to be like telling myself that there is no time, when I know damn well that by taking the break and giving myself that mental, like that 5 minutes of mental peace, that I would be able to operate better. And then, point to what you do want. So now you just kind of hinted at it. So the whole point of it is constantly getting clarity, seeking out clarity. As everything, this is a practice and something that you want to refine over time. When I talk about getting clarity in your life, right? Clarity for all the different categories, the answers aren't going to come right away. You have to realize that as you continue to look at it, more clarity, like things that are important to you, are going to shout themselves. They're going to shout out, wave their hands. And as a result, you start to build. And it kind of goes with the whole thing that life is a journey and a process. So I hope you play around with this methodology. If you like this, hit that subscribe button, share this with 5 people. If you have any questions and comments, throw them in the comments section, and I will answer them there. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And remember, you only get one life. Live fully, live passionately, and most of all, live now. God bless, and I will see you again soon.